Man, it sure is nice to finally get to do a show on a day when there's just nothing going on.
Such a calm day in the world.
Just calm, no biggie. So we'll figure out if there's anything to say right after this. And we're back. All right, has everybody voted? Have y'all voted?
I got to vote today still.
I voted on Thursday.
I voted on Halloween, which I guess was Thursday.
It was Thursday, yeah, Halloween. Yeah. It was an interesting experience. I've never done absentee voting.
Wild.
But it was like, yeah, why not? I really enjoyed my experience because I walked in. I had to wait about 2 minutes. There were just a handful of people in front of me. There were about 40 to 50 people voting at the time. And when I walked out, there were, 10 or 12 people waiting to go through the metal detectors. But it was at the same time, it was cool, but it was also odd.
I actually have routinely voted absentee over the years because...
You're an early adopter, huh?
Well, I live in Webster County, and the rule on absentee voting is you're allowed to absentee vote if on Election Day you expect to be out of the jurisdiction. And so the jurisdiction is Webster County. Routinely, I was in Greene County.
Yeah, that makes sense. So by definition, you fit even if you were very close.
By definition,
yeah, that makes sense.
I fit the definition of a qualified absentee voter. So
but now, all definitions are out the window.
Yeah,
it's just basically a convenience thing at this point.
No excuse early voting. And I just happened to be in Marshfield on Halloween for another event, and I just thought, I'm here.
That was kind of me. I looked at my week ahead and I was like, Thursday I'll be near the courthouse. I'm just going to knock it out. And that way, because Tuesday mornings I have Bible study at 6:30 and then I come do this show, and so it's like, let's just get this done. Because I knew today's schedule was kind of crazy for me. So
that's fair.
Well, and I just I wanted to make sure if something happened to me before today that my vote would
was counted.
Actually, it was interesting. Somebody asked me on Facebook. They said if somebody votes early and then dies before Election Day, does a vote count? I'm like, of course it does.
Yeah.
Well, how would they know?
Because you don't know whose ballot it is. Anyway.
How would they know?
Yeah, you have no idea of knowing whose ballot it is.
Yeah.
Of course it does. Yeah. No.
It's an interesting time that we're in. That I think I read last night there were nearly 80 million votes already cast.
I was wondering what the new number was.
And that's a significant amount. So I've wondered. I think people are going to have a pretty easy time voting today, just because so many votes have already gone in, and so now you have multiple voting, polls. So I think the crowd should be greatly diminished.
Well,
that's what I would think.
I'm curious to know if there's. Anecdotally, my experience, your experience would be a lot of people in this area have early voting.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
But we don't know. Everybody's talking about the news meetings, like all these early votes in Pennsylvania and all these early votes in these other states. And but it's great, but I don't know what that means for here.
I'm very curious to see what it means for Election Day itself.
Well, the frustrating thing
I am too.
Yeah, I was listening to one of my several podcasts I listen to usually every morning, and they were talking about Pennsylvania. We hate you because every other state that does early voting is like, we're going to go ahead and start counting these votes, ahead of time, make sure we can get the results out.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania's like, nope, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do any counting until Election Day, which means Pennsylvania's like, yeah, we probably can't get these votes counted until Friday.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I said, they got a significant Amish population up there. I bet if they put the Amish in charge of counting the votes,
It'd
get
get
it right
done.
done.
It'd probably get done.
but they could just get her done.
It happened real fast.
Yep.
So in Missouri, they go ahead and pre-count the votes. Is that right?
I don't know.
I don't know how that works. I really don't know.
But I know it was Wisconsin and Pennsylvania were two of the swing states that they were talking about how they don't think that they're going to get the votes counted within a day or two. So we need another camera. Just
I know. We have
right
a
over there at the studio
we have
audience.
a live studio audience right now.
And if Lauren just looked like Mom, well,
we can make that happen.
That's why.
because she was. I know that look. My mom used to give me that look when she was up in the choir loft, and I was there on Sunday morning playing hangman and doing things I shouldn't have been doing in the pew. Should have been listening.
Boy, ain't that the truth.
Oh, good times.
You ain't lived unless you were a Southern Baptist boy and your mom came down out of the choir loft to grab you and take you out of the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a very specific thing.
I like the one, like Dad's got his arm hugging the whole family. And whack.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he can hit you
awesome.
in the back of the head.
Pay attention. I would, but that guy just keeps going on and on and on. I'm bored.
Won't stop. I read this on Facebook, and I kind of just like gasped a little bit because it was adult person, mature person. It basically was like, okay, some of you aren't going to like this, but listen, pastors, do not go over 20 minutes. If you can't say what you want to say in 20 minutes, sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Was basically, and I was like, holy cow.
Interesting.
Wow.
I studied communications in my
Yeah.
undergrad, and my professor always said, he would say, most pastors are done far before they end.
Yeah. I think that's
Pastors
true.
are done far before they
I
end.
think that's
I like that.
Well, let's expand that. Most people that speak are done far before they're through. Yeah.
It's interesting to me. The people in my congregation tell me we crave more. We want you to go deep. We want you to teach us.
Yeah.
So I feel that, I know that, and I'm grateful that they want meat. And yet I also know that the human attention span is only declining.
Yep.
So
it is. It's tough.
I know a lot of pastors that go 30, 35 minutes or longer.
Yeah, I'm 40 to 45.
And they're fine. I mean, they know what they're talking about. They've
Yeah.
got good points the whole time. They're not just filling the air. And it's good stuff the whole time, and it's not a problem. What I think is weird is when I speak on estate planning, I go an hour and 15.
Yeah.
And nobody leaves.
No issue.
It seems like, but you're breaking up your topics. You're covering different things. You're adjusting your speaking style, and
I teach young pastors you have to give people time to come up for air.
Yeah.
And so as a communicator, I know that the attention span is somewhere in that 5 to 8 minute range. So I have to split it up to say I have to give a personal anecdote, or I have to tell a joke, or have to bring a visual in.
Yep.
And so basically what you're doing is you're letting them come up for air, and you've now bought yourself another 5 to 8 minutes.
Yep. And that's the way I speak too. I've got meat, and I've got personal stories and other stories, and you just break it up, and it makes it palatable for people. Unlike the last 3 minutes of this show, which nobody
I just
cared
told
about
a personal story
in the slightest. Oh man. Well, I don't know. It's election day. I don't know.
It is? Oh yeah.
Is it? Is something happening?
So will you stay up? I stayed up last night to watch the overtime of the Chiefs game, which is abnormal for me. But
okay. I'm going to ask because I was watching for a bit, and then I was kind of keeping track of it for a bit, and the last thing I saw was Buccaneers 17, Chiefs 10 in the third quarter.
Yeah, so the Chiefs went up by a touchdown, and then they failed to close out a drive. They had a chance with less than 3 minutes
In regulation.
to run out the clock, and the Buccaneers were using all their timeouts, should have had to use their third timeout, even though they were going to have to punt, but they threw an incomplete pass on a gimme. And it should have forced them to use their final timeout before the 2-minute warning. Failed to do so, giving the Buccaneers time to then drive down the field and score. The coach should have gone for 2. When you're going against a team that is better than you and you're on the road, you play to win. Instead, he kicked the point after and gave Mahomes a chance to go down in overtime.
So that tied it.
That tied it. And so then in overtime, they went down and scored and won the game.
So, the Chiefs are starting to really remind me of the St. Louis Cardinals of their heyday. It's like we're gonna be behind the whole game.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose. Oh no, we're gonna pull it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna win. Oh man.
Yeah, they're not great this year, and somehow they're 8-0.
And I don't know.
There's some weird luck.
A lot of
that.
injuries for sure.
Well, and it seems like, from what I've seen, they should be a lot better than they are. They're just like goofy things are happening, or stupid mistakes are happening, or
really uncharacteristic mistakes from what you're used to seeing.
That rookie running back they've got. I mean, why can't he can't hang on to the ball? Every time I've watched, he has fumbled.
They're using a veteran now. Who's,
that'll help.
Yeah.
Is the other guy gone?
Pacheco's injured, and then but that's not the rookie you're talking about.
No, I don't know who it was. I can't remember the train, but I don't watch a lot of Chiefs football, but every time I've watched, he's fumbled.
Yeah. I'm a pretty casual fan when it comes to NFL.
And one of them was just because it was a Mahomes Kelsey 42-yard passing gain. Next play, this dude oops, there's the ball, give it back to him. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, they've had a lot of weird turnovers this year.
I don't know. There was a lot of people, though, at the game. Of course, the games have been packed, but I know the season ticket holders have been bummed because they've set the game times for more television viewers versus stadium viewers. And so people are having a hard time.
Yeah, they're not getting the noon game. They're getting the 3:30 game on Sundays, and then last night was Monday night.
Yeah, so it's been tricky for season ticket holders because they're putting their season tickets out there because they can't go because of work or school.
Yeah, especially Southwest Missouri fans that drive up there for a 2.5-hour drive and then back.
Yeah, so I've heard a couple of grumbles about that, but I mean they're excited their team's winning at the same time
2.5 hours.
too.
I mean 8-0, my goodness.
Make that trip in 2.5 hours.
2:45. So
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's super easy though. You're on 13. It's much better now, and then
13 is much better than
getting to the Arrowhead's really easy.
Getting to Kansas City's not a big deal.
No. Anyway, so I stayed up last night. I guess what I was saying was I'm going to stay up again tonight. I always do.
When I get tired, I'll go to sleep.
Yeah, eventually, if it's not decided.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
10.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I saw a really interesting post yesterday. And, a lot of people have been early voting because they don't really trust, or they potentially don't trust their vote will be counted unless they early vote. And then a lot of people are early voting, I think, because it's convenient for them. And so you've got two kind of different types of people early voting, which is unprecedented numbers, right? So that adds a unique element to this. And I see a post yesterday, and this is from a person that it's like I don't know them, but Jesse knows them. And they live out of state. And they went to check their vote online, I guess, and they hadn't voted yet. They go to check their vote online, and this isn't my brother's cousin's sister heard this. This is a specific, narrative from this person about their experience. They go to the state, they go to check their vote online. It shows the ballot has already been cast in their name. They enter their ID, I think date of birth, several forms of identification. They're told to go to a local office to get a ballot. They arrive at the local office to get a ballot. They're handed a ballot without any sort of identification. Okay. Some people in the ballot line got checked for identification. Others did not. They get back, and then lo and behold, an original ballot shows up.
Okay.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
That's very concerning.
Yeah. Is this local? Can I ask?
No, this is out of state.
Oh, you said out of state.
We don't have any way to check ours.
It's a state on the coast.
We don't get a receipt, do we?
No, we don't. I don't think we have any way to check it. And
well, if it's a coastal state, I don't know that I'm not that worried about it. There's not really any swing states on the. I mean, I'm always worried about it because election integrity is a big deal, but I don't.
That's my thing. It's not really is it in a state that matters. It's just, in fact, it makes me even more concerned. I wish we could get this sorted out. There needs to be a way where we can all go on and verify that somebody hasn't voted for me. or somebody hasn't voted for my dead aunt. Like there's all kinds of scenarios that are out there. I'm not saying it's more than it is, but if it's even one or two, it bothers me.
Well, the problem is we have unanswered questions from the 2020 election.
You're not allowed to say that.
Well, I just said that. And we have and I'm not saying there was fraud. I'm just saying people asked a question, and instead of getting an answer, they were told to sit down and shut up.
Right.
And that's the
not
problem.
okay.
And that's the problem.
Or
and
you're a conspiracy theorist, or you're a this, you're a that, whatever. It's
just answer the question.
Yeah.
The problem is that a lot of people have lost confidence in the election process.
That is the issue.
I really cannot tell you either way what my opinion is on if there's a lot of voter fraud or not. I really don't know, because I have no way of knowing. I know the things that I've heard, and I obviously, this is how many people are expected to vote. 150 million, is that right? That's what was last time? Is that the number?
There was about 100, there was a little north of 140 last time. So, 100.
I think we can say there'll be more. I think there'll be a
we'll hit
bigger
160.
turnout. I think there'll be 150 to 160 million people. Okay, so there's a large margin of error.
So if 80 million have already voted, half of the people have already voted.
Yeah. Now, what would be really odd is if you see a number much higher than that.
Well, the issue...
It's going to make you very curious.
That would be very odd.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the things in 2020 is it seemed like there were more people voting, more ballots cast than there were people that could legally vote in certain
spots. Yes.
And I've heard no, there wasn't. Well, show me the numbers. And nobody's been willing to do that.
And this is where I can't comprehend that there's not a checks and balance, right? Where
correct.
I ought to be able to go on and look to see that my ballot has been cast. Now, how can you do that and yet maintain privacy? We also don't have trust in that, because that would be some type of computer-generated thing that the Chinese would have it.
Well,
right?
And then that's the problem, too, is if you create a standardized system, then a standardized system can be hacked. Right, and manipulated. And that's what I think the problem is.
Every state is to control their own elections, and that's good.
Agreed.
That's
agree,
a good thing.
yeah.
I like that. The problem is some of them are terrible at it, like
That's
Pennsylvania.
correct.
And the other issue is, Chris, I think that you raised is like, why can't we have a good system? Well, we could. I mean, it was very simple. I mean, we can see that it would be very simple to have a safe, secure election that you could trust in.
Right.
So the only reason not to have that is because a significant amount of people don't want it.
Right. And that's my problem, is that in my mind it'd be very easy to have red and blue people, since that's what we have as a two-party system.
Yeah.
Right.
In every precinct, that there is no chance for fraud because they are holding each other accountable and
Absolutely.
checking. However, the problem is in certain pockets, you don't have that. You have one group checking things, and it just opens the door for fraud.
Well,
It
at
does.
least in Missouri, you are supposed to have, and I think virtually every state, you're supposed to have that red and blue.
I understand that.
there's-
I just know that it's not reality everywhere.
Well,
Yeah.
there's two issues. One, just because I say I'm red doesn't mean that I am. I'll just go in. I mean, we have all kinds of Democratic voters
I
that
know,
voted in
yeah.
the Republican primaries, so
Sure.
now you don't have that, even though you have the appearance of it. You don't have it in actuality. And then you have what happened, and I can't remember which jurisdiction it was, but they sent the Republican election judges home and said, there's a water leak. We're all going home.
Right.
And the Republicans left, and
blue tubs. Look at these.
Democrats stayed and counted the votes without Republican oversight.
Right.
And it happened to be in a swing county, and it happened to be in the one that had that huge spike.
Yeah.
Where, all these hundreds of thousands
Where
of
the
votes
election
we
was
counted.
and it was decided
they were
by
all
less-
for Biden.
And it was less than 10,000 right in the final count.
And whether it was nefarious or not, because we really don't know because we weren't there that day.
That's the thing.
It still has created, like I said,
Doubt, confusion.
confusion.
My daddy
Frustration.
always said, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck,
I know.
it's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck.
I shot a bunch of ducks this weekend.
I saw
for
that.
what it's worth.
Good job.
Ducks.
Yeah, it's fun.
As a mess of
My
ducks.
mosquito bites from
Oh, my
duck hunting.
goodness.
I was in the swamp, but
Shouldn't the
Yes, you
mosquitoes
were.
be calmed down by now?
Hey, I lived in Southeast Missouri for 6 years.
Yeah.
They never. Basically, January, February is all you get without mosquitoes.
Yeah.
they're there the rest of the time.
The skeeters.
Anyway, but I just can't fathom that we're not capable of having a better system state by state.
I'm
And I
the
agree
same
with you.
way.
I do want each state to do it. I'm a big believer in states' rights and state control. And the federal government should be much smaller. But
So, yes.
every state should have some requirements since this does affect the entire nation.
Yeah, I think so too.
So one of the
there should be a
things-
base level of, there are certain things we're going to do. Voter ID is a no-brainer.
You have some freedom within this scope.
Only citizens vote, no-brainer.
Why would anybody not think that that's a good? Well, I know why people wouldn't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But
We know
It blows.
still,
Because some
I mean,
people want
it's
to win
insane.
and they don't care how.
Even if you wholeheartedly disagree with somebody, just a fairness and logic, thrown out the window. Here's one thing that's been tooling around in my mind lately. So I think in general, people across the board don't like the current system, or at least have some issues with the current system of politics in the U.S., right? I think everybody could find something about that they don't particularly care for. And, there's a lot of calls for, should be a two-party system, should, what could be reformed to make it better? The people who are logical.
The only thing I don't really like about our systems is the presence of Democrats. Other than that, I'm relatively happy with it. If we got rid of that, I think we'd have a great system.
I'll push back on you there.
Yeah.
As conservatives as I am, I got some problems with the Republican platform
I do too.
as well.
Well, and the problem is too. Okay,
I have one
let's
problem with the Republican platform, and it's minor.
let's say this though. You got to have a balance, because if you don't have a balance, unfortunately, the people who get in power will continue to use and use and use that power, and at some point, even good-intentioned people will make big, massive mistakes. So you do have to have a balanced
It's an
system.
interesting thing to say that, because what does it mean to have balance? Because if we had balance, we would have dyed-in-the-wool fascists on one side. We would have totalitarian communists on the other. That would be balance. So true balance is not what we want. We want balance within a range of acceptability.
That's
right?
fair.
These are the things that are
that's
acceptable
fair.
in a free society.
Right.
That's our balance. And where I would take a stand at that and push back on our current system to say, a significant portion, if not all, of the Democratic platform and Democratic supporters are outside the realm of what should be acceptable in a free society.
Right.
Yeah, but they don't believe that.
Well, that they're
you
wrong.
believe that, but they don't believe that.
Well,
but
but
hold
a
on, let me finish
fascist
my
doesn't
point.
believe they're wrong.
Hold
A
on,
communist
let me
doesn't
finish my
believe
point. We're not even going to go down this whole rabbit hole right now. Here's something that's been tooling around in my head. Could you see a future in the U.S. where the federal government not goes away, but that the states truly start doing their own thing? Does that make sense?
Well, they were always intended to do
I know
their
that.
own thing.
That's what I'm saying.
You're
But
talking
they're
about
not
a return,
currently.
a
Yeah,
return,
return
to federalism.
in a sense. I have a hard
yes.
time seeing the return, because the larger the federal government gets and the more entangled we become in it,
Which
the
is crazy
harder it
entangled.
becomes
Yeah.
to tease out
Yeah, what
that. I
means.
think what's more likely, this won't be a popular statement, but what's more likely is you see what South Carolina did back in the 1860s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Texas has threatened for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd be fine if California decided
Well,
to.
there's plenty of people
but
that talk
it's-
about national divorce. That's the phrase. That
Well, that's the deal. I don't
Seems
think
like it might be.
we won't have a civil war, because we don't. I saw memes over the weekend, like, everybody
yeah.
ready for the Civil War on Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm
Look,
sorry. I don't
wait,
believe that,
I
because I
don't
don't think
either.
your average person is a strong enough person to do really tough things.
We don't have the bravery
No,
in this
correct.
world
I
that
believe
we
that.
once
I
held.
think
We'd
there's
be
a lot
paying
of
30% taxes if we were.
I think there's a lot of
Exactly.
false bravery in this world.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that.
Keyboard warriors,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
so there will be. That's a good phrase. A national divorce. There appears to be a different type of civil war brewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point there will be a tipping point.
Something's going to happen.
You look
I
at all
think.
the great
Yeah.
civilizations; they don't last long.
They don't last.
We're coming
Yeah.
up on 250 years.
Yeah.
Well, our
and-
Constitution has lasted longer than any other Constitution except for Iceland's. So
Right.
So they're too cold to do anything about it. So.
But study Rome. I mean, study these great civilizations. We're on a similar trajectory.
Yeah.
And what's the commonality? Corruption.
Corruption.
Right. There was a
yeah.
pure form and then corruption. So I mean, you
Sexual
talk.
perversion.
Well, that's always a
That's part of Rome. That was
right.
Sure.
incredibly part of the
absolutely,
fall
yeah.
of Rome. Yeah.
Those are the common things, right? That's right offshoot of the main problem. But the reality is, we have lobbyists that are lining the pockets of our politicians, and for
100%.
me, as long as that
Yep.
comes into play, knowing humanity, like I
Yep.
know humanity, the best of people. I get concerned every time I've personally known somebody that goes into politics because I'm like, I'm concerned for you.
Who are they going to come out as?
I know where this is going to take you or where it could take you. And more times than not, it does. And they get paid off and they end up forgetting their the people in their that they are supposed to represent, and they end up living for themselves.
But to answer your question, Lauren, the interesting thing I think that might roll that way is with Trump's proposal of Elon Musk in charge of a Department of Government Efficiency, with the idea that we're going to aggressively
we need more efficiency.
trim and cut down the federal government, just like Javier Milei did in Argentina. Just fired like 40% of the bureaucracy in the Argentinian government, and that's really what we need is to just get rid of.
I'm there because I mean we've had too many cushy people in cushy spots for too long, and that
don't do anything.
That don't do anything.
Nothing.
Right.
And I just don't know. It's not so clear where things are headed. I think is. Because I think in the past, while there was always kind of, we'll say two sides for lack of a better term, there was kind of two sides. But now my concern is a lot of the people who are the most passionate on both sides are so dug in that the logic and reason is not.
Civil discourse is out the window.
It's not working anymore. And so what I guess at the end of the day, I like to find solutions to problems instead of just talking about them. So what is the solution to this problem?
I think I said it. We need to get rid of Democrats.
Well, I know you said that, but
it literally fixes the problem.
The fat. We need to get rid
it doesn't
of the fat.
fix the problem.
Trim the fat.
That's where the fat comes from.
And the lobbyist groups and
another interesting thing that was said to me yesterday was they're now referring to them as the legacy news cycle, which would be like the CNNs, and I'm even going to put Fox News and all that in there, will die with the baby boomers.
It's already dying.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, you've seen the belief in their reporting
100%.
has gone down to 27% or something like that.
Now, with things like Twitter in particular, or X, it is so easy now to find out that CBS, NBC, ABC. CNN's actually gotten a lot better since they changed presidents or leaders, and he's like, now we're going to be a little more fair, and they are more fair. They're
more fair.
Still,
it's so easy
fair,
to go on X and find the news story that ABC, NBC, CBS all ran the exact same news story with the exact same language.
Oh yeah, well it's 100% happening.
And then go on X and find out what the truth was, and go, oh, they blatantly lied.
Yeah,
just blatantly lied in their news story. But ultimately, you have to understand that we have a corporate news media that is walking in lockstep with corporate America, that is walking in lockstep with the Democratic Party, that is controlling the country for the detriment of the citizens.
No, I agree.
I think that's 100% true. Yeah, I think that's true.
So, and again, I don't want to, I'm sitting here saying, hey, it's going to fall apart. Eventually it will, because all things do.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, I think the reality is there will be many swings before that happens. And I'm seeing some course correction, and I want to be fair about that. So. Like Boeing coming out and saying, hey, we're done with DEI.
A lot of places.
Right. And so I have hope when I see stuff like that. Like, okay, if corporations can now hire the best people rather than having to come through this funnel that leaves them with bad hires, I mean, if you've ever hired somebody, you know what this is like. It's hard enough probably to hire good people, and then if you get all these other parameters, you're just setting yourself up for failure
with whether they're going to be a good employee.
Exactly, exactly. So, there's things like that. The independent fact checkers. I mean, we remember when Snopes came out. We're like, oh, this is cool.
Oh, yeah, this is interesting.
Look at this fact checking.
And now they're not. They're so liberal.
Well, right, and that's what I'm saying. You learned you couldn't trust it, but now we have ways to do independent fact checking. We're all doing our own, and we're finding trusted sources. So
that's what I'm struggling with, though.
That's where X is really helpful.
Right,
I'm
getting
struggling
these little
with the
glimmers
trusted
of hope.
sources because what was the situation that happened? Oh, okay. I watched a video about vaccines, and the person in the video was making a very detailed seems to be educated argument about ingredients and vaccines, and was saying the whole time, you can look this up on this thing, you can look this up on this thing, this is my source, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, the stuff he was saying, though, was out there. I mean, like, it even seemed like, that doesn't even make sense. And I'm not pro or for vaccines. I'm just not, it's not something I'm passionate about. I know there's a lot of people out there that are really passionate about for or against vaccines. I'm not a medical person, so I don't have a huge opinion on that. But I'm watching this video, and I'm like, and the stuff that he's saying is so...
Got a little too confident there.
Yeah, so out there. There's a gnome in the studio. That I'm like, holy moly. Like, if you're really diving into this head first and 100% believing what the guy is saying, that's really scary. But even if a shred of what he's saying is true, that's really scary.
Mm-hmm. And yet, who has the time
to
research all that?
Yeah.
I got my own things that I'm really passionate about that I'm trying to put real time into.
Well, that's honestly why I like X so much now, is because of the community notes. And so you have a large cadre of people that are able to go in and say, well, but here's a different version of that, or here's the other, or this is why that's not even true.
Yeah.
And then everybody else that's on X gets to go in and say, that's a good community note, or that's a bad community note. And so there are multiple layers of fact checking that essentially everyone at some level that's on X gets to participate in. I can't think of a better system.
I don't know. It's so hard to say, though, because I have a hard time with the just trusting of... Because
everybody has got their own agenda, right?
That's the deal, because I do, and I struggle with, and this I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I do feel like I'm a little bit deeper of a thinker about more things than I should be, if that makes sense. My brain is probably turning too much. Now, is it always arriving at intelligent conclusions? That I don't know. But I mean... There's a lot of people in your day-to-day life that you encounter that are not deeply thinking about things.
Oh, 100%
really?
True. Yeah, you bet.
I mean,
hadn't thought of it.
At no level are they deeply thinking about things.
True.
And so, I do appreciate their opinions and their comments. I just struggle with it being on any sort of, I guess, social media type platform, even though I see what you're saying about X, and I don't disagree with you. I just have a hard time believing that there's a lot of depth to these conversations.
Yep.
Yeah, they're
or thought.
Yeah, it depends.
It depends. It depends on the person.
Most people have made up their mind, and then they go find their research.
Correct. Yes. 100%.
And that's the sad truth of it.
Yes.
Maybe I'm a rare bird in that I want to read both sides, and
I'm curious.
I want to know kind of how they're arriving, and I want to check my biases as often as possible. Clearly I have biases.
Yeah.
But I want to check them, and I want to make sure that I'm not becoming one of those people. Well, this is my side, and therefore I'll defend this argument.
I routinely try to do that. I try to turn on MSNBC. I try to turn on that. I have a hard time doing that because I can listen so long, but then I don't get the facts, and I don't even get their version of the facts. I get the, you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're a this, and it's not. There's no fact reporting on those stations.
It's just
hyperbole. It's not even
crap.
opinion.
It's crap.
It's hyperbole, and it's insults.
So here's a marker for me, so that I know that I'm at least trying to be objective and honest. When I'm listening to my side, when I'm willing to call cap on certain things that I'm hearing them say, they're doing the very thing.
Yeah.
Glad you appreciated that. Well, you got your kids in the room, so just for them. When I'm listening and I'm like, that's hyperbolic language right there,
right.
Or you're shading that your direction.
Yeah.
If I'm not willing to hear it, and at least call it out in my own mind. Whether I call it out publicly, is another issue. Then maybe I should be more
just
brave.
Because you agree with the ultimate conclusion doesn't mean that you agree with the rationale that some other
Correct.
person is taking.
Sure,
yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, a great example of that's Amendment 3.
Oh my gosh, this was just in my head.
I wrote last week about Amendment 3.
I spoke about Amendment 3 multiple times. Well, on KWTO, I was hosting the KWTO show.
Yes.
Talked about that all morning on Friday.
Go vote no on it, folks.
You got to vote no.
If you care for life.
Even if you're pro-abortion, you should vote no on it.
No, you should. On principle, that they're lying by saying women can't do this, this, and this under the current law, which is a
one thing I had to do. I got to interview
lie.
Dr. Christy McCall, an OBGYN.
Right. Wonderful interview.
I cited her article and what I wrote last week.
She's done a wonderful job getting good information out there. But
job.
Both sides engaged in some hyperbolic language, most notably the pro side. The people that want you to vote yes was just
the pro-choice side. You mean
the pro-choice side
and pro-yes on Amendment 3
was just off the charts with more than hyperbolic, just outright lies,
terrifying.
Just blatant lies,
terrifying,
and that needs to be
that highly intelligent people
stated.
are believing.
But the hyperbole on the side of the vote no, while technically correct and technically correct in the analysis, was the transgender stuff.
It was a stretch.
It's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
It's there, but that's not the best argument to make.
Agreed. 100,000%
That's
agreed.
what I've been pushing against is when you make this case, be honest about it and say, hey, it will open the door or could possibly open the door, and giving the precedence that's been set, they will take it to the furthest
They will.
degree.
Absolutely, I agree
But
that.
say it that way. Don't say it as if it's written that way.
Right.
Correct.
Say the door has been opened.
Yes.
This history shows us they will take it as far as they can. Therefore, we should be concerned about that.
And that was the case I made. As I said, everything that you said accurately. But here's the problem: when you say Amendment 3, if it passes, will allow transing the kids without parental notification, a run-of-the-mill average person, if they do anything, is going to go look at the ballot language and go, "This says nothing."
You lied to me about that.
You lied to me. You lied to me.
So be honest.
So be very clear and very honest. So got a little bit of time left. I'm going to tell you what I think. I want to hear what you guys think.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a Republican House. I think we're going to have a bigger majority than we have now. I think we're going to gain seats in the House. I think we're going to take the Senate. I think we're going to have a slim majority, possibly up to 53.
I'm thinking 52-48
in the Senate. Yeah, we're going to have the Senate. And if it's an honest, fair election, I think Trump's going to be our president. I think we're going to have a red sweep.
Yeah.
My concern is that we're not. My concern is that there's going to be enough fraud in the very few counties that actually matter.
Right.
I think that because if we're willing to call people Hitler and fascist and all of
Unbelievable.
that, which are people that you should probably shoot if you saw them, which we've seen people have done that, why wouldn't you cheat? If you're willing to go to the extreme of violence and violent language to prevent someone from being elected, why wouldn't you cheat? That's a lesser threshold.
If you feel like you're saving humanity, why would you not cheat?
Yep.
I've thought about this deeply. I cannot tell you what's going to happen. I do not have a guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
I really, truly do not know what is going to happen.
I feel really good about my predictions on the House and the Senate.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. I think it'll be 52-48 in the Senate. I think the House will be a majority red again, and it's hard for me to get my mind around even a popular vote win for Harris. Because I don't see the enthusiasm. No. I
don't
understand.
know. I really don't know.
I don't see the enthusiasm for the candidate. I see enthusiasm against the other candidate. And that breaks my heart. And to a degree, I get it. And that's the thing that I struggle with. I'm not a big fan of the idea of Trump being our next president. Yeah. I'm just because I don't like the way he speaks. He will support many causes I care about. Therefore,
Here's the thing about
he'll get my vote.
Here's the thing about both Trump and Kamala, and I think we've all been affected by this to a greater or lesser degree, because I have listened to long form Trump speeches, and when you listen to him actually speak, which almost nobody does.
No, he's actually funny.
He's great. He gives good speeches. He's not this caricature that he's painted, but that's the problem. Is what most people know is because that's what the legacy media has portrayed. Is the best of Kamala. Well, that's all you ever see is her best.
Right.
Yeah.
All you ever see is the worst of Trump.
I don't want to be misunderstood as being put in that camp, because I have listened long form to what he says. When I listen to, let's say, Josh Hawley, here is a guy who speaks clearly. He is articulate, filled with logic. When I listened to J.D. Vance, when I listened to that debate, I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
I love them hillbilly lawyers.
I was impressed with him.
So impressed. I don't get that when I listen to Trump.
or Kamala.
I don't.
Right?
I cringe with. Honestly, I cringe with both.
Right, 100%. I don't like his communication style. There's certain things I don't like about him. However, he has at least been out there. He doesn't hide. He's been willing to talk about policy. Is he arrogant? Does he pop off and say things that don't need to be said? 100%. Those are the things that bother me about him. However, at the end of the day, I saw what he did in 4 years, and it's very different than what we've experienced the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's any disagreement with that. Yeah.
That's, again, why I voted for him and have voted again.
The other thing that I'm really tired of hearing, and I'm tired of hearing it from professing Christians, is I can't vote for him because he's amoral. I'm like, have you looked at Kamala's life?
Oh, well, and I mean, frankly,
just as bad.
Let's be real honest. We don't know the inner workings of every president that has happened in the United States.
It's more public now than ever before.
Way more public than it ever was before.
But I think what bothers us is if it were the other way around. Can you imagine how much dirt would be shared on Kamala's husband that we haven't even heard about?
Her.
It doesn't even get spoken about. That guy is.
We better wrap it up though.
Really
because
something.
We're running low, and the Pixies are leaving
Studio
the room.
audiences.
They're gone.
They're done.
They're in the candy dish.
So I want to end on one thing real super quick. Amendment 3. There's so many people that I wish I could have reached out to and had a face-to-face conversation about. Why I feel the way I feel and why they feel the way they feel, and I was too scared to do that, and that's not good.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, go vote no on 3.
We hope we'll be back next week.
We too love women.
We hope.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.